All right, I wanted to get right to this. We just heard from the reporters. Now it's the editorialist from the Colorado Springs Gazette. You know him, you love him. Wayne Laugesen, good to see you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Man, a page apparently I sit in for sometimes. Ross, thanks for being here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Kaminsky with a
Y.
With an I. I'm pretty sure it's with an I. All right, we've got a new crop of hard-edged progressives coming in. I've lived here almost my whole life. You've been around forever. Nobody knows where you come from. But I have never seen a batch of legislators that are honestly close to socialists and social engineers than before. So when I heard that several of them wanted to tackle a real problem, which was calling first-time legislators freshmen because they're men there and that they want to be called fresh or first-timers, I knew we were off to a good start.
Sure.
What do you expect coming up in next week in this session?
Well, I think you can look for all sorts of new regulations, whatever's being done in Boulder, whatever has been done in Boulder. Boulder pretty much controls the legislature now.
How do you say?
And the governors, the executive branch.
Why do you say that?
Well, look at the leadership. It's all from Boulder. Almost entirely from Boulder.
The governor?
And the governor's from Boulder.
Speaker?
Speaker's from Boulder.
Minority or majority leaders are from, only Leroy Jones is from
Pueblo.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's Boulder.
Right, it's Boulder. So what's been done in Boulder will be done statewide. You and I have both lived in Boulder for a long time. I don't live there now. Lived all over the country. And I spent about 15 years in Boulder. Great town in many, many ways. Difficult town to live in. Not because of taxes. The taxes aren't that high in Boulder relative to the rest of the state. It's regulation that makes Boulder a difficult place to live.
It's the intolerance of Boulder. I have never seen a more intolerant place ever in my life. And I've been in Boulder since the mid-'80s. And it's not the intolerance of Boulder that drives me crazy. It's the denial that they're intolerant. So they'll put their diversity posters everywhere. But if you're a certain person like, oh, I don't know, a gun owner, you are not welcome there. This is Aspen on steroids. It is an elitist trust fund town.
And a very white town at that, because of the elitist regulations that have run out working class people, which runs out a lot of your minority populations.
Well, thank God for that. There you have it. All right.
He said it.
He said it. I didn't. No, it's Boulder. They took care of this. They actually have to. Never mind. I'll ramble about that later.
They have a gate. It's gated, and it's a
gated.
green belt.
The green belt. No minorities allowed.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I wonder about is whether Leroy Garcia, who's from Pueblo and will be president of the Senate, whether he's going to be a moderating force, and as crazy as this might sound, could there be issues on which Jared Polis ends up being the moderate?
Absolutely.
Can you imagine? So I think it could happen, especially on economic issues. I don't think Jared will be moderate on anything related to climate and things like that. But on economic issues, maybe. But what does that say about our state?
All of us know Jared Polis relatively well. I mean, we're not best friends, but he's always been accessible to me, and he's there are these glimmers that pop out when it's on taxation, sometimes on guns. It pops out. Where do you think he could be the moderating force?
Well, let's look at spending, for example, or revenue. I was watching Fox News a couple days, the Saturday before the election, and here's Art Laffer, the former Reagan economist, Laffer Curve, free market guy, talking up how happy he was that Jared Polis was going to be elected in Colorado, because Jared was running on a tax reduction platform. Now, this was news to me, having spent a lot of time with Jared in meetings and even socially. I had never heard that. So I texted him. He texted right back and said, it's true. I want a 3 to 4% tax reduction, and you conservative media types are simply ignoring that. I have the text, it's in my phone right here. And anyway, then he pointed out to me how he had mentioned it in at least one debate, told me where the timestamp was and everything, and that's true. So, but as far as him being a moderating factor on a variety of legislation, consider the fact he wants to run for president of the United States.
You think so?
And that's why he's going to govern
that
closer to the middle than you would expect.
Hickenlooper. The job is already done.
Oh, I thought it was Michael Bennett.
Yeah,
which one is it?
There's 2 years. He will have to wait 10 years to run for president.
But that is his ultimate goal, is to be president, I believe. He wouldn't have registered the domain name jaredpolisforpresident.com if he didn't have some. And who gets elected governor of any state? that doesn't think he or she should be president of the United States. Doesn't happen.
Yeah, so I actually asked Jared about this on my show, and he does claim to be for a reduction in personal income taxes, but he's not looking to reduce revenue to the government. He wants to raise taxes in other places. He only wants to talk about the part where he wants to cut taxes, not mentioning the other shoe to drop. You know, when liberals talk about, let's say, shutting loopholes, what they really mean is raising corporate taxes and other things. I think with Jared having made his money in business, where he might be a moderate is in things that he think could be job killers in the state of Colorado. I think it'll be interesting.
Oil and gas?
Well, yeah, like oil and gas, but also one right out of the bat. It wouldn't surprise me if the very first bill out of the state legislature is paid family leave, which will be funded by a tax that they will call a premium or something like that. They'll call it a fee or an insurance premium. But you're talking about probably 1%. And the way the bill was previously written, 1% was the maximum, which really means it's the minimum. 1% of your salary is going to come out as a payroll tax. So it would be, if you think about taxes at the state level, 4.63% state income tax, add another 1%. It's more than a 20% increase of your state tax. But what the original bill said, and I don't know what they're going to bring now, what the original bill said was, if the system becomes where they're spending more on people taking this benefit than other people who are paying into it, the administrator of the system can raise the tax rate to whatever it needs to be in order to keep the system solvent. So whereas it looks on paper like 1% is the maximum, I actually think it's a minimum, and I think that has the potential to be a huge job killer. It'll be interesting to see how Jared handles it.
You know, I wrote this in the Post because I'm a columnist for the Denver Post. It used to be a newspaper in town, don't worry. Which is, for me, the symbol of what this governor is going to be like is the fee question. If he honors people enough to honestly go forward with a tax increase on the ballot, then I think he will be a different type of governor. Our last two governors were very good at calling things fees, which were obviously not fees, so that they could avoid going to the ballot, because on taxes on a statewide level, people don't like that. Right. So we had the faster fee and the growth dividend fee and the mill levy freeze under Ritter, and of course the granddaddy of the hospital provider fee. The big worry for me on this is that the amount of money that government spends, the General Assembly is controlling only about a half to a third of it now. So taxation without representation is really the key. All this other stuff is being done by appointed committees. So most of government in Colorado isn't run by elected officials. And the more we start doing that with more fees, the more our democracy is in danger. And forget Trump. This fee scam is what's going to destroy Colorado government. And so for me, that will tell me if he's going to be a different type of politician. We'll find out. I can't imagine he can't say no to a fee. Your thought?
I think you're probably right. He's got the judiciary on his side. We have a history in Colorado where, well, the judiciary has allowed politicians statewide and locally to call things taxes, to call them fees. Right. And ridiculous things that you can't, fees you cannot possibly avoid paying are still fees, when in fact the actual definition of a fee is something that you choose optional to pay or not pay.
Yeah.
Right. So we've skewed that definition so that we can get around Tabor. And of course, politicians with big social programs that they want to achieve are going to do that. So yes, I don't see how that doesn't
happen. Talk about some of the social issues as well. There will be a red flag bill.
Yes.
I hope it includes some due process, unlike what was proposed last year. When Hick was governor, it was good that he had Republican control of at least one house. When he didn't veto anything. What is it that Jared Polis is gonna veto?
I can't think of anything.
Okay, I'll throw one idea out there, especially since you mentioned red flag, and I'm enjoying my plastic straw.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Wayne
You're
brought
welcome.
us plastic straw.
Just apropos of nothing, as my grandma used to say, I had the president of the Denver City Council on my show recently, and he said if the legislature changes current Colorado law, he will move to ban plastic straws in Denver. They have to change state law to do that, and I bet you that does happen. On guns, I asked Jared on my show whether he believes in banning assault rifles in the state of Colorado or confiscating them, an issue obviously close to your heart. And he said, I didn't campaign on that, and I generally don't believe in taking things that people already own. Now, he didn't answer the question of whether he would support banning them prospectively. But I could imagine the legislature passing something making assault weapons illegal retroactively. I could imagine him possibly vetoing that.
Yeah, he's not the farthest left guy on guns. So yeah, I could see that happening if they go crazy on guns, and he also doesn't want the backlash of an overreach from his party. So,
well, he doesn't want recalls.
Right, like we saw, what, 2010? 2013, I think it was. Another big social issue that's going to come up right away, I think, is the outlawing of gender conversion therapy, which I think it's pretty clear that Governor Polis is going to sign a bill like that. But the issue that it brings up then is, I mean, the obvious argument against that is, and I take no position against them doing that. I mean, they're kids. Maybe they shouldn't be put through that type of conversion therapy. But at the same time, we have an entire unit over at Children's Hospital here in Denver that converts children's genders at a very young age. So you wonder whether someone's going to bring that up in the legislature.
Also, it'll be interesting to see if they're going to change birth certificates.
Right.
You know, because there was a guy in Sweden who thought he was 20 years younger. The courts would not let him identify that. You know, so will you be able to change that government document and falsify a document and change what you are on that? I think that passes as well, and I don't see how in the world he could vote against it or veto it.
Yeah, I agree.
What's the ugliest thing that's going to come out of this legislature? We've got about a minute left.
Wow. I'm thinking something related to climate, but I don't know what yet. One other thing that really worries me, we've got massive transportation issues in this state. And Jared Polis has said that he doesn't want to raise income taxes, and he's also said that he doesn't want to raise sales taxes to fund infrastructure because voters turned it down already. What are they going to try to pull out of their hat to fund infrastructure, if not income taxes and sales taxes, maybe going down this fee road that you talked about?
They're going to put up some idea for some fee, which is just a tax increase, or we have this massive revenue coming in thanks to the Trump tax code. It's actually going to give us close to $900 million more a year for the next decade.
Or more, 1.2.
You know, but that's all going to get sucked into the whole of Medicare, Medicaid. It could go to roads.
Ugly thing coming out of this legislature will be granting massive amounts of local control over oil and gas drilling and production. And that's going to destroy property rights and run the industry right out of our state and kill a lot of jobs.
On that happy note, Wayne, thank you. Read him in the Gazette. Ross, thank you. Listen to him on KHOW Radio. I'm on KHOW Radio on the weekends. It's not as impressive, but still. Read me in the Denver Post. Check out the Independence Institute, and we'll see you next week.